This is Wes,
And this is Corey.
and today we're going to try to stay on topic.
So yeah, man, like one thing that they never really talk about is the human life collateral damage. In Marvel and superhero movies in general.
Okay, so in Marvel, we've had Alfre Woodard, the actress, playing a mother who lost her son that confronted Tony Stark.
Mm-hmm.
And we had in Jessica Jones, same thing. It was a woman, I believe her husband had died. Man, it's been a few years since I've watched Jessica Jones, but I know
first episode, I think.
Yeah, first or second, and I know she had said something about Captain America, the Patriot, and the Green Guy.
Yeah.
You know, talk to them. But they do mention it, but as far as like sheer numbers, I'm not sure if that's ever actually been said.
Well, no, but I mean, you know, the Sokovia Accords were created because of what happened to Sokovia.
Right.
You know, I don't know how high up that thing was before it finally broke loose and came back down. But even if they got everybody off of that thing, what about the surrounding areas once it hit the ground? That had to create a ripple. I mean, almost as like liquefaction during an earthquake.
All right, so you could go back to the beginning and say the first Iron Man.
Mm-hmm.
How many innocent people died, not by terrorism, but by the fight between Iron Man and Ironmonger in New York City at the end of the movie?
I believe that was in L.A., but that's okay.
Was that in L.A.?
I believe that's in California because Tony's house, I think, was in Malibu, if I remember correctly.
That does make sense.
But not sure of that one. But yes, I mean, they were blasting all through the city, through buildings, on top of buildings.
Somebody had to die.
100%.
So you take a character like Black Widow, whose whole driving force is the red letter in her ledger and whatnot.
Yeah.
Trying to erase her past, but so many heroes have, as a direct result of their actions, cost countless lives.
Except maybe Spider-Man. He's pretty good about avoiding killing people.
Well, I was going to say, they make it a point in Spider-Man to show you that, you know, oh, the building blew up, but he saved the kids and that kitten, and then he swings away.
Right. But, I mean, there's so many examples in, I mean, pick a movie.
Captain America's never cost civilian lives.
Has he, though?
In most MCU movies that he is in, they show you at least 1 to 2 times where he sacrifices his own well-being for civilians. But they don't do that a lot with that. Like, Iron Man will save a kid. You know, a lot like Spider-Man will save a kid, Iron Man will save a kid, but, you know, Captain America will curl up in a little ball behind that shield in front of 20 people in a bank before it blows up.
Yeah. Well, the fact is it's the unspoken technicality. You know, in the real world, if there was a battle going on in the streets of a city, there's going to be collateral damage. There will be casualties.
It's a shame that, you know, we said MCU before this, because the superhero I can think of that causes the most collateral damage is Batman.
I mean, Batman's pretty good about causing some collateral damage, but not on the level of, say, like the Hulk.
Well, and bear in mind, I'm not saying necessarily lives, but just destruction throughout the city.
I don't think anybody's got the Hulk, man. Hulk smashes, dude.
Well, I mean, the Battle of New York, they completely leveled New York.
And how many people you think died during that battle?
Hundreds of thousands.
If not millions.
I don't know about millions.
There's 25 million people in the greater New York area.
Okay, and that was a pretty contained neighborhood in New York.
Shit, I don't know. Those things were flying surfboards all through the city, man. I mean, seriously.
I mean,
it's just, man, it's they don't want to talk about it because it's you know, that brings you down. You want to hear about the good guys saving all, and you know, they saved the day, the world saved from the alien / robot / magician / whatever who's the bad guy in this. And, you know, you don't want to mourn all those dead people. That's for the post-credits, man.
So is this a question of what hero do we think has cost the most lives, or just the most damage as a whole?
And it's just more of an introspection on the fact that it's washed over. It's not necessarily a debate on who causes the most, because, I mean, I still think that's the Hulk. By himself, that is, without any form of weapons, technology, or anything like that. Now, Tony Stark, Iron Man, that dude's always blasting off little missiles and rockets and lasers and stuff.
There's always debris.
There's always going to be a miss shot has to hit somewhere.
So, with Tony Stark, it's a little bit different than a lot of other heroes because he became a hero basically out of regret. Because of all the lives he had already caused, you know, that so many deaths on the, you know, just the Stark name, Howard and Tony. So he started out negative, and I don't know if Tony can ever redeem what he's done. So
and he knows that, which is why he's done the things he's done over the years.
Which is why I also think he can ignore collateral damage a little bit more easily than anybody else.
It's still going to happen, though.
It's gonna happen with all heroes.
How many rogue of those tiny missiles that he shoots out of that suit have gotten away and hit somewhere? Now, that being said, he's pretty good about his technology, and he probably has a built-in protocol that if it misses, it needs to go up and flame out.
Okay, so before his nanotech, if a piece of his suit got destroyed and it fell off mid-flight and he called another piece in and it reattached and he had a new suit, the arm fell somewhere.
Right through some kid's skull. I've seen a meme talking about, you know, somebody being in a big city during some superhero battle. It's like, oh man, cool, I got this new car, and a building just landed on it.
Exactly. Well, think about Thor walking around. You know, if Thor was crossing the street, and bear in mind, you know, maybe you're ignoring some of the traffic signs and you hit Thor. You know, a normal person, you might damage your car a little bit, but you're going to hurt that person. You hit Thor, your car's just fucked. Thor's not even moving.
No. He's just like, oh, what is that?
He's going to pick you up like Mjolnir and slam you on the ground.
Maybe so.
Maybe. I don't know. He's not a bad guy. You know, Thor Collateral Damage, I think the Asgardians are a little different because you have Thor and Loki and the Warriors 3 and Heimdall and all those people. But all the citizens, like the citizens that are gathered around watching the play that Sam Neill and Matt Damon were putting on.
And the other Hemsworth.
And the other Hemsworth. Those citizens that are watching that play unfold, I mean, clearly they're not gods. Right? I mean, they live on Asgard with the god, but I mean, like, you never see any of them demonstrate any superpowers. They don't, you know, no strength. Hela shows up, wipes them all out, no problem.
So, I'm of the belief that Asgardians, in general, are just a much more highly evolved species. Probably a whole lot harder to kill by human standards.
Okay.
Whereas when you get into Thor and Hela and even Loki,
right,
they're royalty. So that puts them on a bit of a higher plane than an average Asgardian. But the average Asgardian is 100 steps ahead of even the best human.
All right, so Thor, you know, without calling forth lightning or swinging his hammer, just Thor's walking around, regular guy. If Thor punched you, he'd throw you across the room because he's a god, right?
Probably further than that.
Okay,
Yeah.
But if your average Asgardian hits you, is it just a little stronger than a human? Or do they have all that god strength like Thor or Loki? Or because Loki really doesn't demonstrate that much super strength, even though he is a frost giant.
His is tied up in magic.
Well, no, I mean, he's a sorcerer, but he's still a frost giant. I mean, you'd think he'd have all that frost giant strength.
And I think he does. They just don't show it.
Well, in the first Avengers, they show him a couple of times sling some humans around. And then in that episode of What If with Hank Pym,
yep,
he messes him up real bad.
Yeah.
But he is just an old man. But still.
And was he not in frost giant form there?
No, he was just Loki.
Was he?
Yeah, he was just Loki. He multiplied himself, and at first he appeared like Nick Fury, and
okay.
But as far as like him demonstrating Thor-like strength, I've never really seen it.
Well, and that's the thing, because Thor carries the power of Mjolnir, which gives him more strength. When he was on Earth in the first Thor movie,
yes,
he was weaker because he had the power of Mjolnir taken over.
Well, he says clearly that he takes his hammer and his power, right? Mm-hmm. And then ties it all together in the hammer with the curse and everything. But I think Thor, without the hammer, like in Ragnarok, was still a badass. By God level, but he's still the strongest Avenger.
But at that
without
time,
the hammer.
He had to figure that out. He did not know that going into that.
Agreed, but so you're saying that Joe Blow in Asgard that's just going to the store one day gets frustrated and, figures out that, will he summon strength from nowhere? Or what I'm saying is, what is the difference? Because all
right, I've got an analogy for you.
Okay.
Take the average Asgard citizen.
Okay.
Not a little kid or anything, just an average you and me.
Matt Damon.
As an Asgard citizen.
Okay.
Could whip Mike Tyson's ass.
Okay.
That's what I'm saying.
So there
anybody on Earth, Bruce Lee, Vander Holyfield, the baddest dude you can think of, Brock Lesnar, whoever. The average Asgard citizen will whip their ass because they're inherently above evolution.
So your separation from Thor to the average Asgardian citizen is that he is royal and he has Mjolnir.
The royal blood makes him even stronger and more powerful.
Okay.
Than an average Asgardian. Well,
because I was going to say, my next question was, what makes the Warriors three superior warriors over any other Asgardian citizen?
You're looking at it backwards.
Okay.
The Warriors 3 became the Warriors 3 because they were badasses amongst Asgardians.
So they earned that title.
Bingo.
Okay.
Yes. Okay. They weren't just, granted some extra power. It's all like, hey, where's the 3 biggest badasses here? You 3? Okay, cool. You're the Warriors 3 now.
So anybody in Asgard could ascend to be a badass warrior, but in order to achieve Thor-like levels of power, you got to get that hammer.
And the royal bloodline, which is in it. Basically...
Well, but I'm saying for the average Asgardian, you're not going to get the blood. You're not in the bloodline. You're the average Asgardian. But you could still be worthy of Thor's power.
Potentially, yes.
I mean...
And if that's the case, that particular Asgardian, I would imagine, just as though when Thor finally realized what was in him, would be the same kind of thing. It's a bit of an ascension. They move up to the next... They level up, basically.
What, for you, dictates worthiness of holding Mjolnir?
However, Odin, whether alive or not, whatever in his head makes him worthy.
Well, see, I've heard it been stated, and I'm not sure what comic book story this is from specifically, but it is from the comics. The willingness to take a life to save others is part of the worthiness. So to me, it's a telling statement that somebody like Captain America can use Mjolnir, but somebody like Peter Parker couldn't. Because to me, if it's just pure of heart, Peter Parker's lifting that hammer all day. But it's more than that.
Well, okay, so Thor and Odin, Hela, the Warriors 3, the Valkyries, all of them, they still have a warrior mentality.
Sure.
I mean, like pretty much any race, anywhere, somebody wants to fight. And for them, they love it. They're good at it because they are so much more evolved than other species out there. But because of that mentality, that is deep rooted into what would make you worthy of Thor and Mjolnir, is not just being pure of heart, but also being a pure warrior. No cheating, no backstabbing like Loki would do, which is why Loki's never picking it up.
Well, I think that speaks to hesitation. Somebody like Thor is not going to hesitate to take a life if it means that he is going to save the world.
Of course.
Somebody like Peter Parker,
he wants to save
everyone. He's going to try to save your soul.
And that's the part of, same thing with like Batman, Batman's whole no kill clause.
Yes.
That is a disadvantage.
I agree.
To those characters, because in the grand scheme, obviously, nobody wants to kill anybody, or most people don't.
A hero shouldn't want to kill.
No. And their pure of heart is a hindrance in that respect, because you're always going to make a decision based off saving everyone, and that is not always going to end up being the best decision.
Well, like Tony Stark, to me, he would kill if it meant saving the majority.
Mm-hmm.
But he lacks the purity that comes with the responsibility of wielding Mjolnir.
Absolutely.
To be able to pick it up. Because when you're talking about, it's not just being like pure of heart. It's about not... I almost want to say Mjolnir has some type of sentience. Almost like Stormbreaker does, how they alluded to that in Thor Love and Thunder.
I absolutely think there is... I don't know that it's necessarily sentience, but that's probably the closest we could get to describing it.
Sure.
It has an internal knowledge that's more of just like a feeling, even though the hammer, I don't imagine, could feel.
If you were able to pick that hammer up, it's because that hammer made the decision. It weighed your heart, so to speak. And it's not about being just pure good. It's about what you're willing to do, the responsibility you're willing to take, and whether or not you will let the power corrupt you in the future.
I suppose that the anti-corruption there could be a part of it. It's not really how I guess I would have thought about it. And I lack a good word for what I'm thinking here and how to explain this, but it's like the hammer just knows that you are, and again, not necessarily pure of heart and even pure of mind to a point, but it's that...
I think it's more about responsibility.
I mean, I guess Thor-like, which is unfortunate because I lack a word, but, again, Thor has no hesitation in him.
I agree.
Thor is just dude.
Absolutely.
I mean, in that respect, Thor is like a dog. It's just a reaction.
It sounds degrading, but
like a well-trained dog that's always on point no matter what.
I definitely get a loyal dog feel from Thor above any other Avenger.
But and it's not so much that he's necessarily loyal to any person or thing, just he's loyal to being Thor.
Thor doesn't have to think about what's right and wrong. Thor just knows what's right and wrong.
Thor just does instinctually and never hesitates on it, because from Thor's point of view, regardless of his decision, that was definitely right, because that's what he chose to do.
Oh, yeah, no, absolutely.
And
no,
in that respect, Thor is absolutely a god in that respect. Because if I'm God, of course I'm right.
Thor doesn't question his decision making. Ever. It's not even making a decision when you really think about it, because he never looked at the other choice as an option.
And even to take it slightly askew from there, the one time they ever show Thor in a place to where he questioned himself, he basically gave up all that godlike power and he became fat and drunk. And he basically at that point was all like, if I can't do the right thing here and win and save everyone, then I must not be a god.
You know, that makes me think of something from Star Trek.
Okay.
There's an episode, and I really don't want to go into the whole thing, but basically, Data plays a game and he loses.
Okay.
So because he does, he doubts himself. And the whole episode, he feels like he needs to be off duty because he's jeopardizing the ship and the mission, because he has no faith in himself anymore. And Picard finally's just had enough, you know. He's, you know, space daddy. And he finally tells his robot son, he says, it is possible to make no mistakes and still lose.
Yes.
And I totally agree with that.
And that's what happened to Thor.
Right.
In Infinity War.
He did everything he possibly could to save the day. He just didn't.
And because of that, he questioned his godness.
Well, you know, that's one of those things where winners don't know how to lose.
Yeah.
I mean, but like winners
Thor,
do not know how to lose.
The concept of losing is foreign to Thor. He doesn't know what that is. And then when it happened to him, it wrecked him.
He started eating Hot Pockets out of the microwave and playing World of Warcraft.
Yep, and drinking all the beer there was to be drank.
That's right. Well, I don't think we did a very good job of staying on topic today.